Our proverbs for this week have been from the country of Malawi.
They have been from the country of Malawi.
The capital of Malawi, you said, is?
Depends on whether you're talking about the administrative capital or the commercial capital.
So let's start with administrative capital.
Take a guess.
Lilongwe.
Yes.
Okay. Leakage.
And then the commercial.
So Blantyre is the
Yes.
commercial capital.
Like that.
Okay. And the president is that man who lived in Buruburu for a while.
The man who even taught in that Bible college.
Yeah.
Yes, his name is Lazarus Chikwera.
Okay.
And his VP is called Saulos Chilima.
Sawa.
Sawa?
Today's proverb?
Today's proverb. A piece of incense may be as large as the knee. Take the proverb as it is presented. No comments about body parts. But unless burnt, it emits no fragrance.
Just like a knee.
Okay.
Unless the knee is burnt.
A piece of fragrance may be as large, of incense, may be as large as a knee.
If it wants. But if it's not burnt,
It's as useless as a knee.
my friend, it emits no fragrance. The knee is very useful.
Piece of work, this guy.
Hey.
This guy is not a piece of work. This guy is pieces of work.
Now, there's a very interesting story that you read for us today.
Yes, it is.
And this is about a hospital and a community.
Yes.
Please tell us the story again, City.
You know, this story, the headline speaks for itself. It says, shake up now looms at Kapsabet Hospital following death of a patient. A patient died. Patient by the name of Kipchumba. After they had died, the relatives said this lady sought hospital care on May the 19th this year. Okay? And she was allegedly mishandled, transferred to Moi Teaching and Referral, where she died. They came back and said, Apana. Had this lady been given the care that was due to her, she need not have died. Forget dying, even the transfer was not necessary. So, when the matter was looked into casually, it was found that, one, there are many issues in this hospital. It isn't one issue. Okay? One, there are some senior managers who are said to be very high-handed. And how this is manifested in itself is that 4 doctors have asked to be transferred from that hospital to go elsewhere. Say they can't work with this manager. This person thinks they are God's gifts to whatever it is.
Okay.
Doesn't listen to people, or backs orders at you, doesn't listen to things that you need. They said, no, this atmosphere, we can work elsewhere. Okay? Then it appears that story of self-interest, this hospital has a 24-hour canteen, otherwise known in rural areas as a hotel. Okay? Okay? There's been wrangles between some officials. 2 were singled out as to the tender who should actually run this.
The canteen.
The canteen.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if they're wrangled about a canteen, they'll be wrangled about other procurement issues.
Yeah.
This article doesn't state them, but the moment that comes out, it means people are aware that there's some money that can be made at the hospital and they want to be part and parcel of it. Okay? Now, the case of negligence doesn't just stop with this lady called Kipchumba. 12 other members of staff were also suspended because there have been other complaints about neglect by hospital staff. Okay.
12 others.
12 others. The total number of people who've been suspended here are 15. So a 5-member team was actually formed to now probe into this particular matter.
Okay.
But what started this was our residents of Nandi, led by a gentleman called Paul Kebinei. They petitioned the government to stream the operations of the hospital. They claimed that it was riddled with graft and incompetence. Now, that is a summary of what they said. Now, if I know what communities do, it isn't just a matter of that they wrote a letter. The MCA was involved. The MP was involved. Meaning they went to these people and said, this is a problem and it needs to be sorted out. And for them to get to that point, this is merely the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
There had been problems, and I think that led them, they said, okay, no problem. And remember, given the employment structures as per our constitution when it comes to hospitals, the bulk of the people who work in this hospital will be locals. So they know what's happening. And they have relatives.
Yeah.
So there's very little you are going to do that the community does not know. And for it to get to this stage, it means it has piled up over a period of time until when this lady died, they said, no, this lady did not need to die. No, they did not need to die. And something must be done. Now, the governor has responded to the petition. And they said, okay, these people, the people involved with these ones. Of course, you talk to the hospital administration. Step aside, please. 5-member team formed now. Probe into this thing, get back to me. And with suggestions of what we need to do. That's why the headline "Shake Up Now" looms at Kapsabet Hospital. Yes.
So this is one issue, one instance of a community rising up to raise an issue.
Yes. Saying
and
no.
coming together to raise an issue because there's something that's happening in a facility that should be serving them, and they feel that they're not getting the service that they ought to be receiving from this facility.
Yes.
They take action.
Yes.
Not isolated at all. Remember, this is in Nandi. In neighboring Kericho, there have been issues about farms, the multinational tea plantations, the rights of the indigenous communities here, and what should happen, who should own this land, how much have the Kipsigis been disenfranchised from the land, the Talai community, and all those issues. And people have been pouring onto the streets and raising an issue and saying, no, this matter needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Community coming out, community having an issue that they want addressed, and community getting out to address it. Now, in some cases, of course, it gets bad where, for example, in Kericho, there was a whole issue of vandalism of
destroying property.
Machines, right? In other areas, the other day, we read a story from Kisii County.
The road.
About a road. How many kilometers was that road?
14.
It's a 14-kilometer road that has been in a state of disrepair and dilapidation for many, many years. It was a campaign issue. Those who were campaigning in that area, the ward MCA, the MP, the governor, all of them came and said, "Hii barabara mosijali, hii barabara nipatieni kasi, nikiweka tu Biblia chini hivi." The people have waited. The people are not seeing action on that road. The people have come out to
and
demonstrate.
MPs have come and gone. The sorry state of the road remains constant.
Yes. Now the people came out and they started doing what people do with roads. They started planting bananas.
They said this is a farm.
This is a farm. Forget about this issue. Raise it. It is not the only part of this country where we've seen this thing happen. Even in Katondo, you remember there was a story about some roads in Katondo where people came out again and did the same with bananas planting.
Yes, they did.
And they say, this road is in this dilapidated state. We need action. Yes. When people are fed up in this country, you will see.
Remember when it was in Embu, I believe, when Boda Boda rider.
Yes.
Yes.
There was some skirmishes about a Boda Boda rider and police.
And someone was shot.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they said, wait a moment, what do you mean? We're merely protesting. What were we doing? Did we destroy anything? Did we cause any harm? How can this... We are demonstrating. Someone goes and dies. What on earth are you telling us?
How are those two related?
Yes. We are merely exercising a fundamental right that we have. We are allowed to picket. We are allowed to demonstrate if we're unhappy about something. And then your response is you shoot us.
Same thing happened in Isibania.
Yes.
Same. Things have been happening in Isibania. There's been increased insecurity in Isibania.
Yes.
People do not need a politician to call them mandamano on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
No.
People just come out and say, no, there's insecurity in Isibania. Things are happening. We need action.
And those who are supposed to ensure that we live securely are not ensuring that we live securely.
Yep.
So we are letting you know that things are not good here.
And I think that's a level of citizen participation or participatory governance that we talk about all the time. And I think it's getting to the point whereby these are isolated incidences. They're not incongruence. They're not that people in Isabinia are warning people in Kericho County or people in Wasingishu that should this happen in your area, we're going to do this. No.
No, they're not communicating.
Exactly, they're not communicating.
They're responding to issues that are pertinent to them.
Yep.
Absolutely. And this is part of governance. Whether it is for me to remind you what your role is to get it done by demonstrating or coming out together and going to speak to governor and saying this absolutely cannot happen. And for the requisite action to be, well, okay, then let's do something about this. And I keep saying that until you get to the point whereby you're either against the wall or you are fed up you are fed up with the promises that are being made and you decide to do something about it, like, yes, plant bananas in the middle of a road that is supposed to be a road but looks more like a farm, or until you take yourselves to the governor's office and say, excuse me, this thing has been happening for years and nobody's done anything about it. We are here. In fact, we're outside. We camp here with you until you do something about it. That's the language sometimes that people hear. And because most times citizens feel as though they are powerless in terms of administration and authority, the voice that they have, my friend, is louder than you can ever imagine once it comes together. And sometimes that is what needs to happen. But you know the reason why it doesn't happen as often as you would like? Because people are not fed up.
I think it happens often at local community level.
No, but hear me.
Every day at local,
hear-
there's a local community that is raising an issue about something that affects them directly. The thing is, how about the other things that are at a bigger level? How about things that are happening? For example, they're feeling, people of a certain county are feeling, no, we are not getting.
This is where I was going. That it is not happening at the level that you would like is because others have not picked up from what happens when you actually come out and speak about your discontent with something. That you can see, wait a minute, does this, and it's not necessarily activism, but does this demonstration of dissatisfaction actually work? And by all means, it absolutely does. Because the reason why leadership treats a people in a certain way is because of the expectation of their reaction or inaction. They don't expect that you will come onto the streets and start shouting in Nairobi. They don't expect it. So they can do whatever they want. They can come and make a promise to you and say, yes, we'll fix this road. The resident feeling is that these people, we can just keep coming and telling them that we'll fix, or we'll come and promise them, because we don't expect them to come out and do or say anything about it. That response from the governor where he says, okay, hold on, there was something here. I don't even know what it was. But until we find out what it was, how about you all go home and let's figure this thing out? Had it not been for the response from the community, do you think he would have taken that action? Do you think that there would have even been any kind of investigation into what has been going on at this hospital? Do you think there would have been something like that? The role that we can actually play in participatory governance is a lot more than we actually realize.
Yep.
So much more. So like these isolated incidences that we see where people are saying, hold on a minute, the insecurity in this area is too much. Look at what's been happening in the Kerio Valley, for example. Have the people had a voice?
Yep.
Have they had a voice? Absolutely they have. And they come out and they say, you know what, this is too much. Our children cannot go to school. Do we live in Kenya? Our children cannot go to school because of this. And you people are here having meetings in Nairobi discussing this, that, and the other thing about our fate. Well, here we are. Somebody got in trouble the other day, a few months ago, when she said, you know what, then allow us to carry arms. And then she gets in trouble. But the truth of the matter is that it is not expected of people to come out and, demonstrate their dissatisfaction with a certain matter. And so it's left like that. When people are pushed to the wall, they will come out. But I'm saying, don't wait for it to get to the wall. Don't wait for it to get to the wall. Let people know that what you're supposed to be doing, you have not done. We are going to come and tell you, you ought to do your job.
I think that what I see as a problem, and my view on this is, there are things that we see that affect us directly, and we feel that they are very close to us, and we can take action at this local level. And that's why you see a school community, people will rise up against a school head. They feel that this school head is heavy-handed, whatever, and they want the school head out, and they come out. And parents of a certain school will come out and say, no, we do not want a certain headmaster. We don't want a certain teacher. We want action taken on this teacher. And it still happens. In Meru, they decided to even slaughter the cows, school cow, and eat it. The school administration was just being silly with this cow. They decided, you know what, we're going to eat our cow. It's better that way, to maliza hii story mara moja. But you see, when the issue is localized, people can see the connection and they take action. We then are not able to connect the dot when the issue gets out of our local community.
True.
to see that you
Or
can
we
get
leave
the
it now
same
to be for
results
somebody else. We expect the people in Nairobi are the ones who are going to demonstrate of a certain issue. This issue of the finance bill, many people across the country have expressed their views in one way or the other, all right? But in the issues that affect them, when now we're going to have 47 finance bills across the country, all of them at local level. If a finance bill in your county, you feel that the county government is proposing to tax your cow before it's born, and you're feeling now this thing, what are you going to do about it? How do you raise that as an issue? How do you actually come out and express yourself? Not destroying property, not burning things, not just coming out and expressing yourself, and even petitioning the local government, all those things. How do we connect? How do we escalate what happens at local level?
You know, this discussion about the Kapsabet Referral Hospital is heartwarming in this sense. It's not just a story of someone who passed away.
Yep.
Action has been taken, a committee has been set up. So one can actually wait and see what are they going to recommend? What's actually going to happen to ensure that this problem, because whenever you hear these problems, those are the manifestations of the issue, the symptoms. How is the problem going to be solved? Remember, I had read a story earlier on about the new law codes in Mombasa.
Yes.
You know, the people who raised this alarm were the Mombasa Law Society. Mm-hmm. They have a chairperson by the name of Charles Upulu. And his allegations were straight. Substandard materials were used. They didn't take into account the climate in Mombasa. They didn't do this. This would have been a lot stronger if we had heard the Agricultural Society of Kenya, the Society of Quantity Surveyors, the Society of Structural Engineers also come into this discussion, because so that we can actually see what happened.
Yep.
Remember, there is a meeting of the annual High Court Leaders Conference in Mombasa. There's a hotel called Pride Inn. Why do all these conferences go to Pride Inn? Anyway,
As a space.
That's the space. So other hotels don't have space for conferencing. Anyway, I am being sidetracked here. Rather, I'm sidetracking myself. The question that I'm raising here is, we are told in this story that the contractor has since fled.
Fled.
Yes, the Martha Koome, CJ, was supposed to officially inaugurate this building.
Uh-huh.
But with all these stories, you know, we even had some courts moving in and had to move out. Sorry?
Okay. Yeah, the judiciary is in Mombasa.
Yes, they're in
Yeah.
Mombasa.
As we speak.
High
They're in
court
Mombasa.
judges.
I remember there was a little drama about Ahmed Nasir being invited
Yes.
by Justice Eric Ogola to come, and I'm told they were classmates, to have a little chit-chat about, some session. And then a little hoo-ha came up, and then another hoo-ha came up.
But the judges met anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's it. And the judges are continuing to meet. But what am I saying? If you look at the sum total of complaints that are raised, often there is something missing. After they are raised, what then happens thereafter? The conclusion to it. And this, I'm referencing the scandals that we come across.
Yeah.
And you can go back into history.
Yeah.
Huge hoo-ha. Huge court cases, people brought in, blah, 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 mentions, nini. And then slowly, and most surely, it dies down until a new scandal comes up. And you never really quite hear of the end of the story.
Yeah.
Never quite.
Yeah.
Now, that's where the problem is. And perhaps, Eric, what we're discussing here, this is where now the Mwananchi ought to take this up and say, excuse me, all these cases involve our money. All of them. If it's a scandal, it's our money. Okay? Now, since it is our money, we would like to see the conclusion of these cases, because we are told by the judicial system that they have a process by which they can fast-track certain cases. It's already in the courts. And you're the people who manage these things. Why don't we get to hear the end of many of these stories? We are a country where people have died before the cases are completed. And we are still waiting. And the problem with these cases, it is not a case of an individual. The moment you're an individual and you're mentioned, it affects your family.
It does.
It affects everything that you do. Now, in the absence of a conclusion, so that we know what really happened, if the headline was that you have misappropriated funds, that is what sticks. Even if you didn't.
It goes with you forever.
Yes, to your
And
grave.
just because those who are supposed to have concluded this matter are not concluding the matter.
Yes, they are not.
And the connection here comes back to what the conversation we had with Mutemi Wakema earlier this week, when they were organizing that demonstration against the finance bill. And Ndu asked, so these things happen all the time. What is it that needs to happen to sustain them? And Mutemi was very clear. What we need is a sustained conversation. If you start something, you keep at it until action takes place. We see this at the local level again. When parents rise up against a school head, they will continue doing so until action is taken. They will not stop. When people rise up about a road, they will continue doing so until something is done.
Mwiki Road, Kasarani.
They
an
did the
example.
same.
Yeah.
They continued until something was done and the Mwiki Road was sorted. When people at that local level, we are very good at picketing, at agitating, at advocating, at raising our voice, at demanding action and following through with action. When things get out of localized, when they become now bigger, now that's where we lose. Like nobody is following up. So was a demonstration once about the finance bill. It ended on that day. It moved on. There was all this conversation 2 years ago about COVID billionaires action. National Assembly was summoning people. The Senate was summoning people. The EACC was visiting KEMSA rather. The military and NYS was sent to KEMSA. Staff were told to work from home. A CEO was suspended.
Drama.
Procurement manager was suspended.
Drama.
The president said, I want a report at my desk in 2 weeks' time. It died. Why? Because we just move on.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying in terms of making the connect. And if I can just quickly, I know you want a good break. If I can make an example. Remember I told you guys how the road where we live is finally being constructed.
Yes.
And you guys thought it was a phantom. It's actually true. The road is being
What is true, the phantom or the road?
The road is actually being done.
It's actually being done.
Right.
However,
Come on.
so there's every road construction has a contract according to law. There's
Right.
a contract. There is a developer. There is a contractor. There's
even
site
like a huge signboard which tells you who these people
Exactly.
are.
Yes.
They will give you the measurements and everything. I have seen participatory governance on this more than I've ever seen in this area for the longest time.
How?
Now, it is probably because the road has been so bad that people have had to fix their cars, so they're really vested here in terms of let's actually see that this road is actually finished and completed. Now, site engineers have been and contractors have been on site for the last 7 months working on this road. Now, like magic, they've decided that 150 meters of this road will not be completed because, they've run out of budget or whatever. Mind you, budgetary allocation was made to specifications.
That's how it's usually done.
That's how it usually is.
Yes.
And it follows the contract.
Yes.
So they give you budget based on the measurements that you have made. Quantities of surveyors come out and they do their thing. And then you go to budget after you have submitted.
And it's for the whole road,
Whole road.
its entirety, yes.
So somehow here, in the middle of all of this, you then decide 150 meters. That's like from here to the end of there. We're just not going to finish it, yeah? And we'll come back and maybe in phase 2 we'll do it. So the question is, what happened to the terms of the contract where you were supposed to have fulfilled? And how do you just make the decision? I don't think the site engineer was ready for the people, the residents of this road, who had said, on this one, we are not going to let it go. People drive and stop and say, where are we today? It has gone to, and so this is a typical example of what Eric is saying. It has gone to the point whereby people are asking the site engineer, no, this is what the contract stipulates.
Meaning they went and found what the contract stipulated.
Yeah.
There was public participation, and according to the law, the results of public participation are as good as evidence.
Yes, exactly.
So you should be able to finish it. Right now, the woman is being engaged to the point whereby, Auntie, look, if you don't do what you said you were supposed to do, we don't have a problem taking it forward. But until this thing is finished, we are not going to rest. So I hear what you're saying. At a level where it affects you directly, people will do whatever it takes.
And they will spare time.
They'll
they'll
go
make
to
the time.
Machakos where you said your office is. They will go. But then now, take that same vim and try and take it to a greater,
Move that road from the local road
to national.
to the trunk road.
Nobody will. You don't see your impact.
It moves.
Why?
It moves.
The answer is actually quite simple. What does that major road represent? Who do you stand to be picketing against if it goes to that major road? It's representative. The thinking about how we respond to power is often at play here. How we perceive power, how we respond to power, how we relate to power. At that local level, we know it's this contractor and us.
Yeah.
We take our own.
It's us. You're at our level, we can handle you. We take it to a huge highway.
Who are we
Say,
seeing?
"Here,
Yeah.
Whose toes might we be stepping on here? And do we really want to step on their toes? It's a question that people ask. There's a level beyond which people would rather just let sleeping dogs lie. They'd rather, okay, we are not comfortable with this, but we are actually not going to get involved.
It's because I think you also start looking at it and seeing distance.
Yes.
And thinking it's going to take me a lot longer to actually
it
get
doesn't drive home for
this
you.
thing sorted. So you get frustrated even before you begin. Let's take a break though. We continue this conversation.
Spice.
Citizens take up agency and they do something about it. Something happens at local level. There's a case today. There's a story today in the Star about a hospital in Nandi County. What's the hospital called?
It's called Kapsabet Referral Hospital. It's an old hospital, this one.
This is a big one.
It's a very, very old hospital. And one of the things that was known for was actually the excellence of service. Kapsabet Hospital has been known for the longest
People
time
knew.
that if you want, people would forget Eldred referral. That's a new one. People would leave Nyanza to go to Nandi and to Kapsabet Hospital. They were known. In the same way, Kericho Hospital was known as an excellent hospital. Now, what is also of interest is that there were other hospitals in the region, but people would go to what we now call Rasha Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Referral Hospital.
Yeah.
So we have a situation where the public hospitals in these regions, you find they were known for
They were
excellence.
centers of excellence.
People actually did what they're supposed to do. Now, the stories coming out of these ones are not stories of excellence.
And when that happens, citizens, because they know what they've received from this facility
know.
before,
They know.
when the quality of care dips,
They know.
they rise up.
They know.
And they come out and say, no, there's things that are happening. This and this and this has happened. And they know the channels to use. They know how to petition the governor. They know how to go out there. They know how to raise his voice. They know how to sustain and amplify a voice.
Just consider for a second, how many children do you think were born in these hospitals over the years?
Oh my goodness, many. It's very possible that many who rose up in protest were actually born there.
Yes.
Yeah, very,
Some
very
born,
possible.
went school, did what they did, probably came back to work there. So their knowledge of this particular facility is very personal. So they know and they understand.
This is the thing, though, and I don't think there's want of this kind of participation at this level. It is clear that once something drives close to home for you, the likelihood of you then getting involved, if anything should go south, is very high. Because you can see the direct impact.
Yep.
What needs to happen is that the direct impact of something outside your community on you as a Kenyan also needs to be seen. Those parallels must be drawn because there is impact. If a major highway, for example, is not functioning, if a major referral hospital for whatever reason is not functioning, it has direct impact on you. And so what we're asking for is that there's a joining of these molecules of power, these joining of these molecules of citizen participation, and saying, can those be brought to a level whereby there are countries whereby you don't touch an ounce of taxpayers' money if you don't ask the people. Where do you think that came from? The very beginning, people knew that we're in this thing together. We choose you to be our leader because maybe we don't have the largesse or we don't have the gravitas to do it as an individual, but we've chosen you. That doesn't mean we don't know what to do.
We know very well.
We know very well what ought
do.
to be done, but we've just decided you be the shepherd here, right? How do we get it from that community level for you to understand that it does
bigger.
affect you? It does affect you. That same angst that you deal with at a community level, to say that, no, come on, this cannot be, is actually, and you're not afraid. You're going to see the contractor, you're going to see the engineer, you're going to see the governor. You have no fear.
That is why, that was the wisdom behind devolution. That whole thing of, bring governance and decision making and accountability closer to the people.
Make it local.
and you localize it and start with the village councils and you go graduating it like that. Now, if we were able to make devolution work very well and then devolve more functions, then now we'd have greater accountability. There was the other story of Bomet, and a certain contractor who'd been given a job to create a culvert, and they decided that they were going to create a hill instead.
Yes.
And the residents rose up and said, this is supposed to be a culvert. We know what a culvert should look like. This thing that you've done here is not a culvert. And they're demanding action. All these things we see from across it's because when decisions are localized, then you're able to also hold the person accountable because you know where they are.
Exactly.
When this thing is bigger, it's national, then you don't know how your voice moves from this to that national office. You do not know. Everybody can understand that they can see their child in grade 7 going to a local primary school and coming back home and there's no teacher. The local parents can see. No teachers have been posted to the school. Maybe one teacher has been posted for all our 700, 800 pupils who are in grade 7. They can see. Local parents can also see these kids have not received textbooks. They can see. Local parents can see, my kid was in this particular school until grade 6. Now they've been told this school can no longer hold JSS. They have to move this kid to that other school. They can see, but they can also see this is not about the local head. The local head has no power here. This is about somebody else who has not posted a teacher. And I think that's where the disconnect begins. So even if we demonstrated at this school, who are we addressing?
Eric, you've gotten the heart of the matter. Speaking as somebody who was the chair of a board of management of a local school, you can't be chair of the board of management of a local school if you're not a local.
You must be local. They must know you.
You are a local. They know you. They know who your father was. They know who your grandfather was. They know you. And all the people you work with in that board are locals. Very many of those teachers are also locals.
Yeah.
So the truth is this, and at the primary school level, literally everybody there is a local.
Yep.
So they actually know what is going on. Just extrapolate that now to health facility. They will know.
Yep.
The problem is not their knowing; it's what to do about it.
Yeah, it's if you at a certain beyond a certain level, you feel like as if you're powerless.
Yes,
and maybe this is where you now have the social justice networks and others coming in to actually show no. If we actually rose and raised an issue here and said our children cannot continue coming to this particular school every day and coming back home and they're not learning and yet I've paid school fees, I've bought school uniform, I demand that my child learns. Okay? So the locals will do it. This will at some point start escalating. I have other children in grade 1, 2, 3. I'm pulling all my children out of this school. If all the children stopped going to school, then that school head has to report to the county education bosses and say, you know what, wazazi wamesema watoto wakuji hapa shule, wamefunga shule because of grade 7. Something will happen. Somebody will come from a higher level to address them and tell them now, but this is what's happening. Teachers, Pana, you only sent one teacher here. How can one teacher teach 700 children? No, children are staying home. Something will happen and it will move and it will get up to the president who believes that 38,000 teachers have been recruited when the TSC is saying they haven't hit 38,000 yet. You see? Because in State House, the president believes the order that he gave is let's hire 38,000 in this.
And he talks about the 38,000
this year. And then after the budget, we'll put in a budget for an extra 35,000 teachers by June next year. So we'll have hired about 80,000 teachers, over 70,000 teachers by 2024. He thinks that is what is happening.
And yet
now on the ground, that's not what is happening. Now, if citizen agency rose up and said, we only have one teacher here for 800 grade 7 pupils in this school. This is nonsensical. It cannot work. That will be addressed.
Do you know part of the reason that I feel this matter has gotten traction is because of the governor? There are governors whom people petition and then give up. They realize this one, we're wasting our time.
Doesn't hear.
This guy does not hear. He's not even here, wherever he is. But for people to petition, there must be a feeling that this governor listens. So let's petition. Now, Even if they didn't believe that, and you see this action, the community then believes, wait, we have a governor who actually listens. We actually complained, and we have seen some action being taken. It means he heard what we had to say,
Yep.
and he has done something about it. This governor is a listening governor. And when you have a listening governor, you can tell.
Now it's about the follow-up.
Yes.
And saying, so yes, you've done this, you've done the other. Okay, what next? Right?
Yes.
Similar thing about Kericho. The Kericho governor, Dr. Eric Mutai, he constituted a task force to look into this issue of the tea plantations, the multinationals, the historical injustices on land and how to address them. Task force came up with a report. Okay, we are implementing the report. People are still impatient. That's why you're still seeing people agitating to keep that matter up there. So it's possible if you start something and we keep the matter up there, we don't have to wait for Raila Odinga to tell us go to the streets on Tuesday. And that now becomes
It will
another
be
whole
organic.
political
Yeah.
issue. It will be issue-based. It will be, this is it. Right now, across the country, education is an issue.
It's a big one.
It's an issue, and it's a disaster that's unfolding on a daily basis. Today, pupils in grade 7 have gone to school. Pupils in all these schools have gone to school. They haven't received their capitation money because there was no money. Now it has been sent. It will take a couple of days before it arrives. This is an issue that we, all of us, ought to be talking about.
And the good thing about the advancement of things like technology is that it allows you to be participatory at whatever place you are.
Yep.
Nobody has the excuse of saying we can't participate because held up here. Actually, you can. It bothers you to the point whereby, you know what, we need to have a conversation. This is where caucuses came up. This is how caucuses were invented. That in your community, you're having a conversation about something, you're agitating for something, you will hear of it happening in the next. And the leaders of those two somehow come out and meet. This is where they were born from. This is how you get to the point whereby you say, you know what, these people are not taking this thing sitting down. So it's either you do something about it or you relieve yourself of the position and allow somebody else come in who can. But the conversation must be front and center. You have to keep talking about it. You have to keep agitating. You have to be involved. Again, I say, and take it seriously, the expectation by a lot of people who are in a position to do something about this is that you will not. Is that you will not engage. That you will see something happening and you say, oh, okay, they didn't finish that part of the road. Okay, so maybe they'll do it some other time. No. They must expect that you will come out and say something about it, and so they will do their part to make sure that they do the right thing. And that conversation will continue rising.
Yep.
It continues moving to the next level. And these things tend to happen organically. Nobody's asking you to go and spill guts and blood in the streets. No. There are ways in which these things can be done for you to get maximum effect. And we are saying that it's about time that folks realize, you know what? Look at what has happened in some other area. We too can do the same thing. These stories are making national news. They did not happen on a podium for somebody to see. They happened in communities.
They were not sponsored.
No, they were not. But look at the effect. The effect has caused somebody to be having a conversation about it. And
they were not funded.
They were not funded.
It spurs somebody else on to say, you know what? We also can make our conversation front and center and keep it up there. Keep it boiling.
You know,
I was told the story of a shop somewhere in Thailand, a food shop, where there's a 40-year-old soup. This soup has been on the boil for 40 years. All they keep doing is adding ingredients to the soup. But because they don't know the original recipe, they are not going to turn off the fire and chuck the soup out. They just keep adding water, seasoning, but it keeps going. It's always on the boil. People want to come and be part of it, and that's the same thing that this conversation has to be. Has to continue being on the boil. The original recipe you may not know, but you can keep adding to the soup. And that's what we're saying. That's the only way you're going to have something like this, and you can't keep quiet.
You know, there's a pervasive culture of not wanting to speak any truth to anything that resembles power. It's being overcome slowly, but the understanding of the rights and the power that the Constitution gives the citizen, it's something that hasn't quite sunk. We talk about it. Civil society people talk about it. It hasn't quite sank. And then what runs interference against this again is this African culture about respect. It's not cowardice. It's just respect. As Africans, we respect authority. We respect older people. It's respect. You approach them cautiously, gingerly. It's not an in-your-face approach like one witnesses in movies that come from the West where somebody literally insults you to your face and that's supposed to be a conversation. No, we're not that way inclined. So how do you find a middle ground where you actually communicate your dissatisfaction so that it is heard and understood and you continue doing so? Instead of believing that for such conversations to take place, it must be funded and the funding must come from overseas. That this is something that you can actually do yourself without just the people who live in that area saying, okay, folks, do you think it is possible for us to have this conversation with these people? The moment the communal sense that distinguishes us as Africans is done away with and become individualistic, then these conversations become impossible.
Yeah.
Because even if you start it, somebody will interfere with it. Somebody will scuttle it. Instead of joining, they'll scuttle it because they feel, why am I being moved out of my comfort zone? You see that road that leads to the place you live in? You know, some people have adjusted to it. They know it is bad.
So we're going to budget to fix our cars.
Yes. Or we're going to budget to drive. Whatever it is you're going to do. Instead of saying, but, we pay taxes. This road needs to be built. A simple thing. Back to this matter of the High Court in Mombasa, the building. That land on which this building sits has had controversy. There was a time when a private developer took it over. It's again this law society that fought to have that land returned to the court. This thing in Kenya where it's supposed to be government land, some person decides that they need to have this land and they fiddle and they do this. It's happened with school land, it's happened with prisons land, it happened with
railway land.
Railway land now. Goodness gracious me, there's a lot of it. They went to town on that one. Airport authority land. Now, when these associations that handle certain bodies, certain professional bodies speak out, we say they're organized, but it's the organization is people who organize. The people, and now these people just live in communities. It's not as though there's one particular estate where people in the law society live or people who belong to the pharmaceutical society live. We all live in a mixed way with all these individuals. Now, look at the human resource in every community that you come from or in any community that you know in this country and now consider just how underutilized it is. Because no one is saying go and destroy things in your wake. We're saying just raise your voice and say this is what ought to happen and it's not happening. And because we've been taxed, as far as we're concerned, we've paid for it. So can we get what is rightfully ours?
It's just localized accountability.
Yes.
We see it. We know that it works. Localized accountability. Now, let us localize it to the whole country called Kenya. All right? That's still local.
It's still local. It's our country.
When you have it at that level, it's still localized accountability. But then we ought to know how to do it and how to do it well. We heard it from Mutemi Wakiama the other day. That whole issue of forget about wanting to be paid, wanting to be compensated to turn up for a meeting, wanting to be just turn up because you know that there's a wrong that's taking place here and it needs to be righted. That's it. That's it. That's what they do. That's what we all ought to do. And if we just understand that we've got the power, as long as you talk about it, whatever platform you have, you raise that voice. If you're strong on social media, raise the voice, raise the issue on social media. There was a lady that we hosted here last year who was raising an issue about sewage and garbage in Korogocho. And she petitioned Governor Sakaja immediately. And Sakaja saw it. And Sakaja said, all right, this is a big issue. Let's actually address it. The other day, she went back to social media and she was saying, it's been sorted.
The matter was addressed.
The matter has been addressed. The matter has been sorted. The children of Korogosho can now come out and play.
Imagine.
Without their parents wondering, okay, unacheza kwa takataka kwa sewage. The power of citizen agency. Let's never underestimate our power. As we go to the top of the hour, there's some interesting tweet that I saw from Ambassador Macharia Kamau, former PS in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is what he was saying. appalled and disgusted at learning of remarks by a Romanian ambassador in Nairobi in reference to African group members as monkeys. During an Eastern European group meeting, Atashem attempts to cover up this disgrace, this intolerable and unacceptable in any age, let alone in the 21st century. Hiya!
It's still happening.
In
Nairobi, no less. It's still
an ambassador in Nairobi meeting with an African group of ambassadors and making reference to that group as monkeys. Now, I don't know the context and the details of this. It would be nice to follow up on this, but no. There are some things that need to be addressed. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we host the MP for Kasarani constituency, the Honorable Captain Ronald Karauri. He'll be our guest.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.